Hesitating on recording this for so long, but now's the time. Just got out of the shower. I decided to remove my contact lens and not put on my glasses, and as my clay mask is drying up and my hair is drying up, I thought I would record this video. Because I'm half blind, it doesn't seem as scary. I'm not here to shit on any parts of my experience or people or situations or companies involved. I'm here to just share how my experience felt like to me. So I joined Singapore Airlines in 2018 as a flight stewardess. Few reasons behind why I joined the airlines. I had an ex who was planning to migrate to the States, and I thought I could get the benefits from the company to get cheaper air tickets. Second reason was because I've always wanted to try wearing the kabaya. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the idea of being a stewardess was amazing. My first my first ever flight was on Singapore Airlines at the age of 13, and I was so nervous, but I remember the flight stewardess that served my aisle being so hospitable, so poised and graceful, and I was looking at her like, wow, this Cheche is so cool. I want to be like her when I grew up. Another reason why I decided to join the airlines was because I wanted to be out of my home space. It felt like my family's dynamic was very unhealthy, and it felt scary to be at home. I did not like being at home. I liked being out of home. I never felt at home, so I joined the airlines. And I was very anxious from even before I joined the airlines. I just thought I was being dramatic, and I was told by my then ex that I was being dramatic. I was crying way too often about little things, very little things. And I had plenty of enjoyable and not so enjoyable parts to my flying days, but I started to suspect that I might have anxiety because I was crying before every single flight whilst doing my hair and makeup on the ride to the airport. I think there is an issue if you're crying so often. It's not normal to do that. It just means that you're unhappy or unsafe or needing to find health in your environment or nervous system. I did not want to get support because I thought it'd be weak of me to get professional help and support. I finally broke down before a flight I was looking forward to. It's a high-paying flight to Frankfurt, New York. I was preparing as per usual, crying as per usual as I was putting my makeup on. I even had my own technique to cry so that I don't ruin my makeup, so that I can look through my teary eyes and do up my bun, my chignon. And I remember on that day, as I was going to the living room, I could not stop crying. Usually by the time I had to show my face to my family, I'd be able to stop crying. I was extremely good at hiding my tears at that point in my life because I've been practicing since a young age, because my father did not allow me to cry. Sorry for another day. Love you, Papa, but that was kind of messed up. I met my mom in the living room, and she was kind of like, the hell? Why is my daughter crying non-stop? And I think it looked quite scary the way I cried. Just what happened, I said, I don't know, it's okay, leave me alone. And then my father came in and he saw me crying, and he just got really upset. He was like, oh, if you don't like the job, just quit, But it wasn't that I didn't like my job. I loved serving passengers. I loved being able to travel. I loved my pay. I loved that I had time away from my family, but I could not say that to my father. Again, love you, Papa, but I had to call in sick. That immediately gave me 4 demerits because I was too late to call in for MC. It's a late call. I was supposed to be on the way to the briefing room before departing on the flight, and if you were to gather 8 demerits within a certain period of time, you would have disciplinarian check-ins. I could not afford 4 demerits, that's a lot, but I had no choice, right? Because I didn't know what to do with myself, and I decided to go to the GP, of course, to get some advice. I remember sitting in the GP's office and then the GP asked me what's wrong. I said that I think I have anxiety. I was really scared to even voice it out, and it sounded so scary because it was so real to hear myself finally admit that I possibly have an issue. I was too prideful for that. I didn't want to think or seem crazy. The GP immediately turned to me and he was like, "Oh, how do you know?" And it was with quite a bit of judgment and doubt. And immediately the waterworks started, and I just cried and said, because I'm crying before every single flight. He immediately started typing on the computer. He's like, "Oh no, I'm really sorry to hear that. How long have you been experiencing that?" And then I just expressed whatever I could in that moment, and he gave me a referral to a psychiatrist. I immediately informed my ward leader that I was dealing with some mental health, emotional health issues, and I needed to figure out what it was. Sent to the psychiatrist, was diagnosed with anxiety, GAD. And then when I went to the counselor told me, "Okay, it sounds like you're highly depressed and also anxious. Try yoga and meditation." And I gave yoga and meditation a try. It was because I was desperate. I did not want to rely on the medication that the psychiatrist gave me. I thought it would be very weak of me to take medication. Not the right idea. If you need medication, please do use it. I just did not want to rely on it. So I meditated and practiced yoga every single day. There came a point in my journey where a really dear friend of mine, Charmaine, she's my friend from when I was in secondary school, so she's been through life with me since the age of 13. I'm turning 30 this year. Charmaine told me to give tarot readings a try, and I was like, the fuck? In my head, I didn't want to be rude. I love you, Charmaine. But I was so judgy. I was so skeptical. I hesitated and I put off going for a reading. But what I did with my extremely skeptical and stubborn mind and my slightly more experimental and inquisitive nature, I decided to buy my own deck to explore on my own, to figure out how accurate this thing could be. So really what kickstarted my exploration with the tarot was my mental health journey. I was very diligent with my daily yoga and meditation routine, and this was just something I got to kick off and explore because I was on a long-standing MC when I was in SIA for about 3 months. And it's not that the psychiatrist gave me my MC for 3 months. It was progressive. It kept adding on. Every single time I go back, I would be too anxious to go back to flight because I think the Frankfurt-New York flight pattern was about 10 to 12 days. And when a flight pattern this long is disrupted, you are put on standby every fucking day. So I was on standby for 10 to 12 days. And for someone with anxiety, that does not fucking help. And at that point in time, they changed the system, the call-up system, when you're on standby, 24 hours by the way, again, in case I haven't made that clear, to one on an app. It's called the Crew app. They used to call your phone if you were on standby, so you would have almost like an alarm to tell you that you are activated for a flight. But at a point in time, they have switched to that system, and I needed to go into the app to check because a little ping from your notification is not going to do shit. You're not going to wake up from that. So I was unable to sleep and rest well. I was extremely anxious, obviously, and I had 4 demerits, and I was trying to explain to my ward leader and ask my ward leader for help with waiving that off because I really wanted to stay in the job. Back to the main part of the story. So I was tinkering around with the tarot cards, right? And I bought the classic deck. I actually have it here. This is my first ever deck. It is the Rider-Waite. Where is it? Sorry, I can't find it because I'm not wearing my glasses. Anyways, I bought a classic deck because I realized from my research that that would be the best beginner's deck. Charmaine told me, she's like, "Hey, you got to sleep with the deck." I'm like, what the fuck? Why are there so many rules for a fucking deck of cards? They are just paper. But I told myself, you know, if this is what they say you have to do, if I want to properly understand this tool, and if I wish to prove that it might be possibly placebo, I have to do it properly anyways, right? So I placed a deck by my bedside table. I slept, and the whole night I was dreaming of each card speaking to me. It was the first time in a while where I felt like I was lucid dreaming, and in a very different time-space reality. When I was younger, I tend to be a little dreamier like that. I thought I was imaginative, but now I realize it's my intuition and my abilities to be able to sense and see stuff beyond our timeline. Sorry for another day. But I woke up and I brushed it off because I thought it was placebo, right? Like Charmaine told me to sleep with it. My assumption was that it was for me to connect with the deck and for the deck to build a relationship with me, and for us to get real deep and intimate. So I thought that my dream came about because of her words. I tried to memorize every single card, but I couldn't because I'm not studious like that. So I could not get any accurate readings when I was referring to the guidebook. But the moment I ditched the guidebook and started to read based off each and every card, the reading started getting accurate. And again, this angel sent from heaven, Charmaine, recommended me a place to read at. It's a cafe that was called The Moon. I decided to give it a go because at that point in time I was starting to get referrals from friends of friend, and they were always telling me that they found my readings helpful. At a point in my life, I was already very, very good at becoming counsel or advisor. I think a lot of you might resonate with that, to either friends or people that I meet online through Tinder, and also through flights. So I'd meet, of course, a fresh set of crew every single flight, and if I do get close to any one of them, they do end up ranting to me about their life, and I end up sharing with them perspectives. So it felt like I was doing the same thing through the cards, and that's how I kickstarted my business. And this was in end of 2021. When I kickstarted my business, I started to formally offer aura readings, and that kicked off really beautifully. I started getting insights for pets, did pet communication, animal communication, and that kicked off. I got collaborations online, started getting features. I did it because it made sense at that point in time to do so from the standpoint of managing a business. It was all very practical choices. So even when I decided to do readings at the Moon, it was because I would have extra income. When I decided to do things full time, it just felt like it was time for me to start something on my own. So I even went into it full time without having an audience. I did not tell anyone from the cafe to follow me on my personal page where I was sharing my love and interest for spirituality and New Age practices, which is now called Transmission Wellness. It was guided by Di Luna, Tarot Therapy, which was the name that my ex came up with, and myself, and then now it's Transmission Wellness. It's a whole ass journey. I can't really go into every single detail right now, but that's kind of like the gist of how I got to where I am. Each single part and portion of my journey has been extremely important in my personal development, and I've only learned more about myself, my place in the world, who I am, and what I'm wanting to show up as through every single reading. And I think in every single reading I feel like I'm getting more and more humble. Funnily so, I feel more human than ever at this point in my life. I think that's my main takeaway from my experience of, quitting a job that I loved so much to doing this full time. And here I am. So I have a lot more stories to share. I'll be sharing them in a later date. I can feel my clay mask drying up, so I'm gonna wash it off. I don't know how this story would help any of you, but for those of you who have been curious, this is my journey. If you're keen to find out more or curious about the work that I do follow me on my socials at Transmission Wellness. Throat chakra stuff. Okay, I'm out. Bye.